Hello, beautiful souls. I'm going to start making a few videos. I've really not been motivated to make videos lately. Most of my content that's up to date is on my podcast. Truth Resonates podcast, wherever you can listen to a podcast, that's where you'll find it. And be ready to have your mind blown. This is my life. It's always been transparent because Source Creator asked me to deliver that truth to you, and I have. If you go back to my very first videos on YouTube, when he was saying start a YouTube channel, you can see my growth and development as a spiritual being. It's not about followers and likes and all of that. I really wish you would engage with me more. In fact, it's just because I want to know if you have questions. I want to know if you're experiencing this in some level. Are you feeling led to make changes in your life? How do you do that? Please let me know if my videos have helped you in any way, and we can continue on this journey together. What I'm going to deliver to you today has been evolutionary on my heart for some time, but over the last 3 months now, I've been working really exclusively with my twin flame soul to uh, assist him in his evolutionary process, transforming into the physical human that he endeavored to be, without the shadows, without the things that our world puts onto the divine masculine. It's really shocking, even though I like to say like nothing ever shocks me anymore. It really does. The level of depravity that has gone into um, so many beings and entities feeling like they had the right to put overlays and distortions on divine masculine and divine feminine, all to keep us apart. And why? Because once we come together, that's where the magic starts. And it's undeniable and it's uncontrollable and it's beautiful and it's all the things they don't want to get out. So, what I'm going to cover today are the top 10 veils. And what I've learned is when you hear the term lifting the veil, it really doesn't transmute the right, accurate description of the veils. It's multi-layered, interwoven, and repeating. So over time, and when I say that, I mean like since the divine masculine and divine feminine have been oppressed, suppressed, victimized, um, it has been repeatedly different entities have been asserting their own judgment and will and opinions of what we can do and what we can't do. So you hear all the time about free will choice, but what you don't hear about is that other entities, councils, um, there's all these councils in the galactics, right? That allegedly are here to help humanity ascend. But many of them are also power driven, and they know that when the divine masculine and divine feminine unite, their needs as a council to govern are greatly diminished. And why is that? Because as the divine masculine and divine feminine come together, it's their creationism, it's their acts of love and unity that start to create worlds, communities. We're not talking about just creating more humans, because we do that as well, but it is a significant shift in everything that we know about in humanity. It shifts it into a true divine creationism sense of energy. They don't want that because they no longer get to go forth with their opinions about what humanity's doing or not doing and guide. Instead, what happens is the divine masculine, divine feminine come together, their own attributes are amplified. They develop new ones together, and then they go forth on their path and trajectory, creating. And it's not up for debate. They don't get a say. We're not asking anyone's permission because we have been given the blessing of Source and Mother Sophia to come back together after thousands and thousands, sometimes millions of years apart. So no, whenever we get to this place where we are, we're not asking anyone's permission anymore. No one else gets an opinion. And especially now, I'm 3 months into this, being on this side of the veil. It's seeing how many overlays and distorted veils, hooks, different types of overlays that have been thrown over him to keep him in self-doubt, lack, afraid of not being worthy, afraid of failure. Just everything is layered upon fear and doubt and all the things that keep us out of our power. And this is the kicker. He has not been informed for hundreds of years, since the middle 1700s. He has been higher consciousness being, not informed, just in his light body, and chose to come into form to live a life with me here for a few years until we both leave this dimension. I agreed to do that with Mother Sophia. I know that's going to blow your mind when you hear that. I'm just giving you the truth. You will eventually understand it. But I think as a collective, we think that us humans here on this side of the veil are not as powerful or sovereign or don't have the abilities that those on the other side do. To a degree, that's true. But now I'm looking at this corridor that he has had to come through, multiple corridors. I'm going to say that it's really like a very, very long wormhole. But in it is draped all these overlays and distortions and hooks and fear and doubt and all these things that he's had to fight to get through to the end of it. And they all have come from overreaching and overarching entities, councils, and beings that thought they had a say. Some of them, some of these distortions go back to Lemuria because of things that occurred then in that time. They put these safety nets in place to protect the divine feminine, divine masculine. Well, the situation today is not what it was in Lemuria. It's not what it was in Atlantis. And yet we still have had to go through and remove and dissolve and reconcile veils from those time periods. There were people, beings, entities that Mother Sophia had banished out of our dimension hundreds of years ago, but they left a fingerprint. They left a net. They left something that you could call a hurdle in the way of the divine masculine ascending. Think about that. You think you're just working with your own shadows and your own contracts and agreements. And then you realize, oh, wait, for hundreds of years, for some people, thousands of years, there have been beings interjecting their negative energy onto my path. So I not only have my own shit to deal with, but I get to now deal with things that other people thought was important at the time. And that time was 350 years ago or 600 years ago or whatever the case may be. And it has been heart-wrenching, mind-blowing, but super motivating at the same time. Because each time we dissolved something, a false construct, a fear loop, a negative loop, a doubting loop, any of that stuff, when we dissolved it for him, And many times we dissolve it for the collective. It can't sustain. But you've probably heard before about your soul having contracts and agreements, like a soul contract. Well, toward the end of that soul contract, whenever that happens to be for you, you can ask Creator and Mother Sophia to release you of any and all contracts and agreements that no longer serve your higher self. You can do this multiple times a day because literally everything that in that moment can be released and the next level comes up. So I've been doing that for several months now. When he got to the place where we started seeing all that, I said, let's start releasing his contracts and agreements. I'm sure he has some too. So the first 50 for me in that moment also affected him. And they were all disempowering. They were all about, it's not time yet. It's not time to reunite. She has to wait. He has to wait. You're not worthy. What if you fail? Like all this minutia of negativity put in our path. And then I keep asking for contracts and agreements to be released, and we get to 100, and it's the same thing. We get to 150, it's the same thing. 200, same thing. We went into upper 600s contracts and agreements on my soul, on his soul, that were strictly about keeping us apart. And I say us, meaning, yes, they were on us specifically, but it trickles down to keeping the divine masculine and the divine feminine apart. So you are literally working against entities and energies that have interjected nefarious intended hooks, nets, veils is the global term, to stop you from reuniting from hundreds of years ago and this life. This is not for the faint of heart. For those that like to romanticize the twin flame reunion, you are going to have to really sit down with this one, because yes, there are moments of pure passion and eternal love and so much fun and all the things that make your dreams come true. But in order to get there, you've got to put your hip boots on and wade through the mud and the muck of things that have been layered over us as a relationship and as a people, as a subset of the collective, the divine masculine and the divine feminine. We have individually been suppressed and oppressed for a really long time. That's nothing new. But to realize that there's this interwoven, intentional veil put over all of us to keep us apart, every step of the way, it's really goes to show how freaking strong we are when we come together. They would have never imposed all of that onto us had it not been that we're so powerful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the top 10 veils plaguing the divine masculine. Divine masculine, they get a bad rap. Yes, they've contributed to their own set of circumstances, but as a subset of the population, they've been attacked and oppressed like the divine feminine. The first one, the perfection veil. This is the belief that they have to arrive to their divine feminine completely flawless. No, nothing wrong with their form or their voice or their presentation in any way, shape, or form. Now, the outcome is that they try to this unobtainable goal. They're constantly on this loop of chasing the perfect moment. And the reality is, for a true balanced divine feminine and divine masculine, that moment of perfection occurs when the divine masculine arrives, however that occurs. There is no such thing as perfection, but for an individual, for me, what makes that moment perfect is that he's in it, right? And it's not about his hair or what he's wearing or how he talks. It's nothing that has to do with that, because that's not true love. That's not eternal flame energy. Eternal flame energy does not care about the vessel as much, because it's the light body on the inside. It's the soul, it's the energy. So to remove that distortion of, you don't create a perfect moment, the moment is perfect because you're in it, releases that and dissolves it. I think there was another, oh yeah, because it's a, a, a hamster wheel, right? You're expending all this energy to create the perfect scenario and the perfect moment that does not exist. Then you are literally wasting all your energy on something that cannot be obtained. That sounds very familiar, doesn't it? That's what they do to us in Earth School. That's what we're taught to do. We're taught to just push through, work, 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 and that is a definition of success. But it's actually not. The second one, the protector's burden veil. This one says he must shield the divine feminine from pain, even if it means withholding true feelings. And this one's just wrought with issues. So the outcome of doing this is that they have this overstretched, way beyond the boundary sense of responsibility. And that can lead to feelings of being stuck, where they're afraid to move in any direction of evolution, because they feel like, well, if I work on myself and it pulls me this direction, I might miss a threat and I can't protect her from over here. And that's supported by many of the archetypes, that where they say, you to them, they have said to them, you have to protect them from a distance. Being with them causes more danger, but you can't move too far away because they still need you. So they're stuck, like in this paralysis state of not really being able to do anything. Now, the reality is the divine masculines, myself and many that I know, because of what we've had to come through, we've developed our own sense of protection. We can take care of ourselves. That's how we got here. We're not weak little, roses that can't handle the heat. In fact, I feel like we're really more like dandelions. And that balance needs to be obtained. So they can, and we want our divine masculine to support us, but this is how it should look. Okay. So let's just say, because this recently actually happened. I received information, I received a download that there was a council meeting happening that really would affect humanity going forward. And there wasn't enough benevolent representation at the table. So I inserted myself and him as king and queen of Illyria, because we are flame born. We can assert ourselves into councils. And I had, and I do have, experience with the negative effects of council decisions. There's been corruption in the Pleiadian High Council, Galactic Federation, Galactic Alliance, the Arcturian Council, and I have sensed and cleaned up all of them. Not me myself, but me and the ground crew. We have worked with Source. We have worked with the archangels. We have helped clear that up. But to just take for granted that any council is going to make the highest and best decision for us as humans, they have already proven they don't do that regularly. They see us as expendable. So I inserted myself into that without any consultation. I just knew it was the right thing to do. He stood there with me at my flank in quiet solidarity, not because he didn't have anything to say, but because I had the floor. This was on my heart. This was my intentions to push forward. And in doing so, we put forth a united effort. So he supported me, but he didn't push me out of the way and say, let me take care of this for you. Okay. He didn't disempower me. He listened to what I had to say. He resonated it with it. He was proud. He was in awe that I took control of that table. And just my presence, our presence being there, made some that were nefarious aligned and had contracts to deceive. They just left because they knew I'd see through them. Now, he was with me. He did feel the urge to protect me, but he also recognized I did not need it. So that is how we want our divine masculines to show up because they know us. Now, if that's not your situation and you require or you ask for more, then so be it. This is literally my experience. And so I'm giving you my examples because this is what I know. This is what I've lived. To go through that and check in with him after, like, okay, so how did that feel to you? And he gave me his resonance of that moment and how he saw it play out. He gave me like this being and this being immediately respected you because you brought balance to the table. And this being wanted to make sure that we weren't repeating mistakes of the past, but he did not feel like he had a platform to say that because he had no support. When you showed up, he all of a sudden had support. It gave him the strength to speak his truth. Others that were nefariously aligned, they knew they didn't have ground to stand on, so they became quieter because before we got there, they were pushing in, exerting pressure and leverage. So I knew that it was seen clearly. I accomplished my goals, my intentions, and he accomplished his because as a divine masculine, he just wants to like have his hand on my back to say, I'm here, but you do what you need to do. You do what you want to do. I support you 100%. And it felt great. And I can tell you, I've not had that much in life, like ever, because it takes a healed divine masculine to be able to stand there and just be supportive and not try to be the center of attention, not try to be the protector, the white knight, so to speak. So you don't want to, if you're divine masculine listening to this, you don't want to just always ride in on the white horse and rescue your divine feminine. That's not what they always want. In fact, I venture to say this, usually not what they want. They want you there to support them, but they can handle their business because that's how we got this far. Okay, third one, the worthiness veil. This one is repeating. It's repeating. So every time that we dealt with it, within 3 to 5 minutes, another one would drop in. And that worthiness loop kept coming up for him. The belief is that the divine feminine or the divine masculine doubts that they're truly worthy of their divine feminine and the flame union and the lineage that they come from. So it's it's multifaceted. And so they can kind of, drop the you're not good enough for her. What makes you think you're good enough for her with all that you've done in your past, right? So it's pulling you to live in the past. It's pulling you to not feel and know and sense your own worth. It's also making you feel like you have to do more, right? So you'll delay your reunion or you'll delay any interaction because you feel like you're unworthy and that you have more work to do. The outcome is that you continue to cycle in self-doubt. It's another negative loop. And this is diminishing your ability to engage. You'll keep pulling away. You'll keep stalling. You'll keep pulling back. It's that typical 1 step forward, 2 steps back scenario. But this does require a healed, authentic, shadow work veteran, because you need to heal the wounds that caused the doubt of worth to begin with. And then the more layers of that, because it usually comes in layers, usually what causes these shadows in our being happened so long ago, but there are more and more layers to it, right? Because they're kind of self-fulfilling prophecies with, especially with these overlays in place. So you want to just be mindful of it. So if you address it the first time, whenever that occurs, your worthiness of your divine feminine and that life together and all that it means. The next time that doubt comes up, just face it. No, this is another aspect of the same lie that we've already dissolved. It does not hold weight. Move on. And you're going to keep having to do that. You just have to stay with it. Okay, the fourth one, the failure veil. This came up every few minutes. Every few minutes for weeks, this was happening. So the belief is that the divine masculine arrives and cannot sustain the moment, cannot sustain the union with the divine feminine for whatever reason. It's like any and all possibilities of reasons come up. The outcome is that they live in fear of failure. They're paralyzed as a divine masculine. They feel like they are constantly having to overanalyze every aspect of every situation, of every scenario, but ultimately their failure is in hesitating and not showing up. So they have a fear of failing, but the effect of that veil is that they never show up, and that is actually how they fail their divine feminine. So they truly are failing them, but if they would not give power to this fear, they could push through and not fail them because they could actually show up. So the reality is that the failure happens because the divine masculine buys into and feeds the fear, and the divine feminine is left on the other side starting to doubt themselves. Like, why aren't they choosing me? We've come this far. Why do they still have fear of failing? What is happening here? And that delay repeated over and over and over and over and over again takes its toll. The witness veil. The belief here is that they fear, the divine masculine fears being seen fully embodied in the world, and they're not ready for the physical density of a third dimension, fourth dimension planet. It's tough. It's really tough. This has more to do with, well, it could be two different things. For us, for our situation, he's coming into form, light body into physical form. And so he's coming down in density and taking a physical form, which he's had before. This is not like we're not rewriting the blueprint. It's there. We share the blueprint. It's just that he's not had a physical body since the mid 1700s. So there is and every time he had a physical body, there was war and trauma and pain and distortion immediately. So there's a fear of being seen as a physical body that is vulnerable, basically. But this can also be whenever you have a human divine masculine who's transcending from, doing the evolutionary process from 3D to 4D to 5D. And that fear of fully stepping into that 5D role, because you got to leave all the stuff behind, right? You got to leave the judgment. You got to leave the bias. You've got to leave the fear. You got to deal with all that. And it's not a checklist. You don't deal with it, one day and it never comes up again. That's the thing. We saw it time and time again. You're going to have the resolve to deal with this over and over and over again because it doesn't stop. It's relentless. Now, the other thing is the fear of being judged is also wrapped up into this. Because when we drop in from higher consciousness into a little bit lower consciousness, so it's not that you're dropping frequency so much, but it's the density of the planet, you automatically feel judged. You automatically feel like there's a spotlight on you, and everyone else that's around you, that's been around you for a long time, or been around this dimension for a lot longer than you, is just more accepted. And that just comes with time. There's no way to get over that until um, you walk the walk, right? So, but how do you get there if you're in fear of being seen in that dimension? It's a paradox, and you really do have to do the shadow work to get through it. Okay, number 6, the time debt veil. So this belief is that memory of all the delays and the almost and the it's not time yet, all the fractures of the relationship for centuries have made too much of a scar. Like you can't come back from that. The outcome is carrying the guilt of all this, and it's so heavy that it slows progress to the point where some question, is it actually worth it? The reality is reliving all the past events, all the past what ifs and almost, and we were so close, but it didn't happen. It's actually robbing you from the gift of the present. And I know that sounds super corny, but it's so true. When you stay in the now moment, you can recognize and receive the gifts of the now moment, the gifts of the present. And every time you worry about past events that have already been written or future events that have not yet been written, but they are dependent upon your now moment decisions, you're robbing yourself of the present moment gift. So if you really endeavor to just stay in the now moment, you'll actually write your higher consciousness future by making your higher consciousness decisions in the now. And that's very hard for humanity to do because we're taught to reflect and plan and, make your 12-month goals, all this stuff. It's just, it's a soul suck and an energy suck. Your best guidance is to use your harnessed energy that you have in the now moment for each and every moment to make your highest and best choice for your soul. That is it. When you can hone in your guidance to that and hush the noise around you, you'll become much more proficient in your own path. Number 7, the isolation veil. The belief of this one is that the divine masculine has to complete the trajectory, the path, the journey to arrive to his divine feminine alone without any assistance. Like they're on this this journey to prove themselves. And actually, this came about because the controllers that knew that a divine masculine and divine feminine come together. They're going to problem solve like gangbusters. There's not going to be an issue that comes up that they can't solve. So that the seed is placed in the divine masculine, that it's a weakness to lean on the divine feminine, that they just have to figure all this out on their own. Also, by not asking their team for help, they literally embody and hold in everything. And then they feel obligated to deal with everything without any help. There are very few beings that can traverse this without any assistance. In fact, I would say there are none, because that's not how we're meant to live in unity, in compassion, in kindness, in love, and gratitude, and forgiveness. If we're only meant to do it by ourselves, then why do we need to have all those skills and attributes and discernment? So it was something put in the seed planted in their mind that would always keep a hurdle between them and the divine feminine. So as soon as this was surfaced and I realized it, I then just started checking in. What's on your mind and what's on your heart? And anytime things would come up where I knew that if he just talked it out, all he had to do was talk it out, and he would find his own strength and way, and I would support him. This dissolved. This isolation construct just dissolved. Okay, number 8, the lineage shame veil. So this is the belief that old distortions tied to our clan, our family lineage, that flame line being hunted and vilified would stay like in the present moment. And the outcome was that it made him hesitant to stand in his full name, representative of the clan. But the reality is that as soon as the family name, the house clan name, and our full name is invoked, it literally burns through distortions and mimicry. It's that powerful because we don't just pull from our own flame, it's the flame lineage that supports us. So you see the twistedness of this. They make you ashamed to say your name. They make you ashamed to stand in your clan lineage so that you're always disempowered and you can never tap into the power of the clan. So frustrating. The reality is that once you get over that, you realize, no, wait, my name and my lineage is power. And you start to get your clarity, and then you start to get some respect because your name and your clan is known throughout the universe. And you start to feel like, okay, that was a big lie. And what else did it keep me from? And then you can tap back into your birthrights, your lineage tied birthrights. Okay, number 9, the comfort veil. The belief here is that subtle temptations remain in an energetic contact only. So it's comfortable to visit your divine feminine telepathically or in dream space, setting intentions to go on an astral travel together because you don't have to show up in the physical, right? And there's a level of anonymity there almost, where you just show them the best sides of you and vice versa. Now, the outcome is that they choose this half in, half out intimacy over a full embodied union. And that's not real life. Reality is that the sacred union comes together in full physical form, full physical contact. And whenever they first kiss, they first hold hands, they first make love, that act in itself burns away false constructs, lies. It transmutes and transforms nefarious energy into light. And it's the moment where you realize all these things have been keeping the divine masculine, divine feminine apart physically, because when we come together, we are the quintessential shift in humanity. That's exactly what it is. Without us coming together, all of the little big elite controllers, I don't know what else to call them because that's exactly what they've done over time. They lose their power when we come together. When we're kept apart, they have the leverage. All we have to do is call a spade, and now you don't have control over us anymore. We come together, and as soon as we do, it dissolves all of this stuff. All of this only holds weight while they keep us apart. Plain and simple. So we actually create communities, worlds, stars, planets, and people. So that's why we have been feared. That's why, and I don't say we as in me and him, although that's a thing. It's the fear has been that the divine masculine and divine feminine sacred unions come together and we no longer need all the systems that have been in place. And guess what? That's true. Okay, last one. The mortal fear veil. This is the belief that there's this dread of being in a physical, mortal body because then you become vulnerable to death or injury, trauma. That comes from prior incarnations into a physical form where there was nothing but war, trauma, and pain. The outcome is that they cling to this liminal space to avoid the vulnerability, to avoid harm. This is nothing but a faith test. This is absolutely nothing but a faith test. So if you or I, which I do, have 100% faith in Creator, I have zero fear of any type of mortal death because I already know that death is an illusion, that this vessel will eventually decay, but my light body and my energy does not die. It just transmutes and transforms. So we go on in existence wherever it is that we choose to go or need to go, absence of the vessel. And I don't fear that. I have faith in it, in fact. And so this is literally just a moment where the divine masculine has to reconcile that death is an illusion. The vessel is never going to last forever, but that what is infinite is our light body, is our energy. The energy of us, the energy of anything cannot be destroyed. It can only be transmuted, transformed. And that's what happens. So this is a faith test. When you reconcile that, then the power of fear of dying evaporates. It no longer holds weight. So there is a huge push energetically for all sacred unions to come together. I do have a few series for the divine masculine specifically, but not enough. But it's coming up and I'm seeing that there's a need. So I'm going to try to put more content out for that. If you have a divine masculine that you know that's struggling, maybe they're just in the beginnings of their journey, maybe they're kind of plateaued because they have these veils that are coming up that I don't even know what they are, definitely share this with them. I think, people will get it to a degree. Sometimes they won't. In the first time they listen, but as their frequency rises, they'll understand more and more and more. And the more that they experience, the more that they'll see the truth in it. This is literally coming directly from my firsthand experience with my own twin soul coming into form and all the things that he's had to deal with. And it's very individual. Just because he has had them doesn't mean that another divine masculine will. It's not a certainty, but it's a pretty good indicator that whatever your divine masculine has dealt with in past lives and past incarnations has been used against them to keep you both apart. That's why you see such a futile perspective of twin flames. That's why the only leverage you get, the only hope you get is in the romanticized version. Because the reality is that it's hard work and it's spiritual hard work. Yes, it takes energy. Yes, it takes dedication. Yes, it takes love. But it's all of that for your spirit to not be broken again and turn away from what your destiny is. I hope this has helped you. Please leave a comment if it does. Share it with your divine masculine brothers, nephews, children, friends, and don't be afraid to talk about it. We have to discern truth from lies and then develop our path forward from the mud and the muck, which I call the matrix, because it's been developed to keep us stuck like quicksand. And now we're all rising up out of it. So for every divine feminine that's rising into your power, don't forget to look back over your shoulder, extend that hand out to your divine masculine and help them up, because they too have had so much work against them to keep them from uniting with their divine feminine. I hope you have a great day and I'll see you again next time.